Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Cool. So I'll run you through just a chat on headless commerce. Sorry, the screen's doing crazy things. Right, we're back. So yeah, headless commerce quickly, and SEO and the implications on SEO from that as well. So there's obviously some advantages that we can have from headless and better tech development. So what we're going to run through quickly is headless for better performance. So just a note on this, obviously headless, Mac, composable, decoupled, the terminology you might have heard about. Generally it doesn't really matter in most instances for you guys, the difference between them. There are some differences, but what we're talking about is the best tech for web, for app, for content management. We feel that we're at a moment of seismic change Sorry, the time has gone as well, so I will try my best to get it somewhere near. So we feel we're at a point of pretty significant change for web development. What we're seeing is better content management systems coming. There's Storyblocker here exhibiting. You can go and talk to them about how you manage content with that. But what we're also seeing is front ends that enable just simply better user experiences on the front end. We all know that Google are pushing towards user experience signals more and more. And so what we're seeing is an opportunity, as well as in low code, no code. That's great in certain situations. WordPress is still great, monoliths are still great, but there's opportunities in headless for more advanced solutions, more complex solutions, but ones that still can be very easy to manage. So we're going to bring it down to the finding the 1% gains. I'm sure we've all seen these images before, but what we're talking about is with headless and with improved tech, we can find gains in lots of different areas, add those together and improve performance, not only for SEO, but for PPC, but and for other digital marketing channels. And it might be that we're talking about content management. We can improve content management with headless. We get really best of breed content management experiences. It might be in performance that we want to improve. Page speed is there, Core Web Vitals, other things are there. So it might be that we need to find it there or across both. And then we come on to better UX. And better UX, brand alignments, things like that. With a free front end, all of a sudden we can do more from a user experience point of view in that front end. So, headless in simple terms. Some of you might have heard of it, some of you maybe not, but we can go from where we've come from. So obviously we had monolithic systems that came around as a response to very static pages, lots of development needed to make changes. So we needed to move quickly. And 20 odd years ago, we had monolithic systems, the WordPresses come up and answer that question and provide really, really good solutions. And as we progress now, maybe headless is another progression on from the monolith. And in simple terms, and we all love a Lego person, headless is kind of what it says on the tin. You're pulling the head off a body. And through that, what we end up with is a body or a back end or a content management system in simple terms, or a shopping system, all residing in a back end. And then we separate that from the front end, meaning that we end up with connecting those through APIs. And again, we don't lose any of the functionality. The APIs can still do all that work. But what we have is basically a smaller footprint for the front end. We've got lighter front ends. We've got the ability to do more with those front ends. Again, and compared to a monolith, we all know WordPress loading plugins that we don't use on particular pages and still bringing some code through for that. So we lose all of that. We've got the ability to, again, have more efficient systems. From a security point of view, we might be simply looking at the attack surface. There's lots of complexity around security, obviously, for web. But from an attack surface point of view, we've just got a smaller attack surface. So we've got, again, the ability to make more secure systems, increase security, stop hacks. And then when we look at multiple front ends, in a monolithic system, we might end up with a front end generating an app, a whole body generating an app, a whole body generating a website. Well, we've got content integrity issues. We've got 2 places to hold content, 2 places to hold data. Whereas in a headless system, what we end up with is being able to utilize one body and shoot that out to multiple front ends. And as you can imagine, from managing even tech SEO points of view, SEO content, particularly content, we've got a much simpler system to work with. And then we can move one stage on into composable or composed, where we can pull the whole Lego man apart. Bit cruel, but let's do it anyway. And on that, for composable, what we can do is then pick the very, very best elements for each and every part of that system. So we might want a super smart arm that does super smart things. Well, we can have that, and then we can pick legs that do certain things. So we can compose the very best of everything together and create a system that works more efficiently. And then if we go on to Headless and Mac, and I mentioned Mac earlier, so Mac is microservices, APIs, cloud infrastructure, and Headless. And it's an acronym that's being pushed heavily at the minute. Great, does it really matter? What we're looking for is the very, very best end product. But if we look at the 2 systems, yes, there's differentiations. In all honesty, it doesn't really matter. If we go searching for acronyms, we're going to end up with the wrong solution. Think about collaborating with developers, C-suites, marketing, SEO, thinking about the very, very best solution. It might be headless, it might be Jamstack, might be decoupled, but it's just about the best solution. And then moving on to modern commerce and what we're looking at with modern commerce. Well, monolithic systems, the likes of Shopify, really do a great job and serve a purpose, but they bring everything together in one box, make it easy to manage. Now, on more complex systems, or when we need, maybe we really do need an app to go with a web front end and a dedicated app, well, Headless can free us up from that. Or we need to manage content better. We really, really need to push content hard. Well, again, we get to pick best-of-breed content management systems. What are we seeing in headless commerce? We're seeing a lot of evolution. Centra is a shopping platform that's coming through. It's just been implemented by Paul Smith. Again, free from a front end. It's able to do shopping really well on its own. Focus on luxury, focus on fashion and luxury. Shopify are working on hydrogen and oxygen. Now hydrogen is their front end, and they've recently invested in or acquired Remix, which is a great front end. So again, we might have Shopify with hydrogen as opposed to normal liquid web front end for Shopify coming through very soon. BigCommerce, recently Catalyst, and then the others, the big guys have obviously got headless options in there. And then we've got the likes of Swell, Fabric, Crystallize all coming through with a headless focus. Moving on to the front ends, Next is exceptional. Most of the websites or a significant number of the websites for the big brands in the world will run off Next. The updates that they're releasing, so it's Next from Vercel, the updates they're releasing on a regular basis are really stratospherically good. They're strong, and they come with more features as we go through things. The likes of Vue and Nuxt, Allo-K is Vue Storefront's rebrand, I think. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Remix and Hydrogen are coming together with Shopify's investment. Remix is great. Remix is really strong. So as that becomes more part of Hydrogen, that's going to increase the ability to decouple Shopify still within the Shopify system. And then we've got the likes of the app front ends. Again, with this freedom, you can have a dedicated app still running off the same content management. And then headless content management systems. I don't know how many of these you've seen. Sanity is doing some great stuff with content management. Manage it, multi-editors like Google Docs, editing processes, really good, really strong. We're even creating, for one of our clients, we're using Sanity as a PIM to create PIM functionality because we couldn't find it elsewhere. So because we can work with Sanity, we can create PIM functionality within that. Storyblock exhibiting here, they're the guys who were implemented on Paul Smith as well. So again, really, really good content solution. Contentful, Prismic, I'm sure Contentful you've probably heard of. And Payload is coming through with a slightly different offering as a CMS with a tightly coupled to Next and Vercel in the front end. And then we're seeing moves across. I think we can't hide from the fact that Headless for a little bit has had a bad rap. It's still suffering a little bit. A lot of people moved onto things like Hydrogen One or moved without properly architecturing the solution. But we're seeing people now moving towards headless, but moving in the right way, with the right structure. And these are all brilliant developments. Gymshark, if you can ever read up about how they iteratively rolled out the headless stuff, it's really good work. And then, so why does it matter? And why? So all of this is coming back into obviously UX improvement. So how can we get more from UX? How can we get more from page speed? We all know, and I won't spend too long in it, we all know that Google is pushing for more UX signals. As links become harder for them to differentiate, as content becomes, again, quite busy, what can they look at? Well, the signals are that they're going to start looking at UX, and I know it's been around for quite a time, and they said, okay, page speed is a ranking factor, and they've said it for ages. I think most of us know that, it's maybe not the biggest ranking factor, but over time, maybe UX signals will come through and show, more and more strength. And again, they're pushing for, improved performance. But the big thing that they are telling us as well is that from what they're seeing, business performance improves, conversions improves, your metrics improves, your lead numbers improve. So again, they're seeing the data that says you're getting more out of better user experiences. So I think Headless has the power to make SEO easier, to make SEO implementation easier, and to make web management in general easier. You get to separate things a little bit. So you get to work on things without the restrictions maybe of a monolith. So you get to separate content management to get the very best of breed in that, performance, design, UX, and you can optimize those and implement them really effectively. So from a content management point of view, I love this thing from Ahrefs where they've said, okay, well, let's look at it this way. Let's look at a number of ingredients. In a traditional CMS, you push that out to one pizza. Whereas in a headless CMS, you can bring that through a recipe book and again, create loads of different pages from the same components. So if we think about components or rows, well, we can configure those in a headless architecture in a very similar way to how you can design with components in Figma. And then we can drag the data in and we can make a component that might be a carousel. That same component can be the mosaic component that's bigger. But again, we get to optimize that really well. And again, this is Brighton SEO's website where we've got a series of content treated as data and content models bringing it together. And again, a bit more complexity around how we're bringing things together. And again, you can imagine from a management point of view or from an optimization point of view, we're not repeating as much work. We can optimize and that can then be reused. And then you see it coming out into front ends, again, the Brighton example. And again, much easier, much more content integrity, much easier for users and much more flexible for you guys to implement changes quicker as well. And then from a performance and tech SEO point of view, if you want to get really boring, we'll go into all of the different types of rendering, but it just means things are happening quicker on the front end. It means we can take all the dynamism that monoliths gave us, but then still have that static front end or as close to static as we can get. Again, experiences are snappier. If you notice headless websites, they tend to have interactions that are quicker, moving between pages that's quicker. And then we also can ship less JavaScript to the browser again, advantages. We know the advantages of that. Things like image optimization. Now, I went to a the green SEO thing last night. And again, we're talking about storing data. We're talking about outputting that data as well into front ends. But what we can do with Headless is we can take one single image, and we can optimize that in the CMS or the front end, pushing it into the different devices. So we don't need to store lots of images, and we still get optimized images as well. We don't need to upload 3 or 4 different resolutions and then wait for the guy who's got the monitor turned into landscape to completely ruin everything. We can optimize per device, and we can optimize on the fly much more efficiently. We can then use things like hotspotting, and this is hotspot with Insanity. It's not a great example, but if you imagine there's people on one side of the image, we can hotspot on that image, and as we move the resolutions, again, from a mobile point of view, we're not sacrificing squeezing an image, and it just doesn't quite work on mobile. So we've got those abilities. We've also got, obviously, one of the topics of page speed. This is a tool that we built because we're geeks generally, and it goes through a whole site, and it tells you the page speed of every single page rather than just the home page, which everyone looks at and then realizes the rest of the site is awful. But we've got the ability to make sites faster across the board. So with this tool, we've been looking through certain sites, and particularly in commerce, what we find is sites on monoliths tend to have pages that really are quite slow because of big images or some other issue with it. They also output a lot of carbon as well. Those slow pages are closely correlated to outputting a lot of carbon, or impacting carbon performance. So again, with Headless, we get the freedom to optimize better, but site-wide. We don't just focus on individual pages. And then from the SEO point of view, I think a bit of time ago, everyone was like, oh, Headless SEO is really hard, or Headless SEO don't. It's not. You just bake into the back of the proper CMSs. So the likes of Sanity, we can bake in whatever you need into the back of it from an SEO point of view. So we're taking SEO to the next level. We're taking it to a strategic level, which can then feed down into how it operates. We can control the different content editors within the system as well. We can give them accesses that from a overview of a strategic SEO point of view, again, we can control that in a way that's just much more efficient and aligns with SEO strategies that can, again, become much more efficient. And then from things like auto-generating schema markup. Now, I was in a talk earlier that talked about they've generated something for this in Headless, but I mean, it's easy enough to just build it into each and every scenario. And we can auto-generate without the restrictions of maybe a monolith or a plugin or something else. Again, making it customized to you, but making it really efficient to manage. And then from a better design UI UX point of view, we're used to seeing pretty similar product listing pages across the board on e-commerce. And this is one build we're doing at the minute. And it's for a short run clothing. So they only produce 100 of each item or whatever, a short number. So we don't have a big product listing page to work with. So that would have been a pretty average experience for their users if we would have just put it into a standard product listing page. But with Headless, we have the opportunity to do something different. So we've got a style switch. So instead of looking at a big list, we can switch the style on a click of a button. And then we can move the models around. And all of a sudden, the shopping experience becomes very tailored and more personalized to your particular customer. And then we can move on to product detail pages. So I think everyone's seen a product detail page like this. They kind of all look similar. But are we assuming that when people get to a product detail page that they've kind of made their decision, they just want to do the last bit and check out? Or are they still looking for more detail? Are they still investigating what that product is going to do for them and the advantages of it? So again, we can pull out product detail pages that are just more aligned to maybe where people are in the shopping process. We don't have to have one product detail page across the board. And again, this can give us advantages in optimization. You can think of it from a content point of view or from optimizing in a different way on a product that maybe is more innovative, maybe has different, or even if it's running to fashion, and Nike we've used as the example, but running to fashion to gym, you want a different PDP. There are pitfalls with Headless, and I kind of alluded to a few things that have gone wrong previously. It's more akin to software development. We need to be working in things like agile rather than waterfall. It's a process that's iterative. We've got to bring people together. Detailed discovery, again, is very, very important, but it's not cost prohibitive. It doesn't mean that just because we're dealing with it more like software, it's much, much more than monolithic. It's not. The tools are coming through and making it much, much more accessible. So to run through just the final bit of where might the 1% be for you? Well, it might be in publishing content more efficiently, more collaboratively, or pushing it out to multiple front ends with one single source of truth. Maybe we want lighter, versatile, more carbon efficient ways of doing things in front ends, and again, improving that page speed, improving that user experience where we can feel the snappiness of really quick websites and apps. or it might be removing the bottlenecks between developers and marketing teams and other teams. So with Headless, again, we get the ability to construct systems based on, page builders, ways of building pages out, component-based with multiple options. And again, you can build out pages without the need for a developer to get involved. So there's that advantage. But when the developers do get involved, they're working with things that are much, much easier. We've developed with WordPress for quite a while, and there's WordPress up to a point is brilliant, but post that point, we start to lose the time advantage that it's given us to that. When we want complex things, when we want a little green triangle on every single image because it's part of the brand, that's where we start to lose some of the time advantages that it's given us up to that point. With Headless, it's unlimited. It just keeps going, particularly, with the Nexts and with the Remix. And I think as we see UX developing and maybe becoming a more important ranking factor, maybe page speed will start to really influence rankings at some point in the future. We have the opportunity to optimize for that. And then we're seeing, like I say, composable headless moving at pace in commerce, in B2B, getting advantages for SEO, PPC, landing pages, things like that. And I think it's starting to be now a strong option with correctly configured, correctly brought together development phases to really differentiate from the crowd. So, there we go. Did it just on time, I think. Thank you.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.